This is with respect to Companies Act. Today we are very fortunate to have Mr. Abhay Sharma. He has 1.5 decades of experience. He's a company secretary and a law graduate, and he has also done the certified. He is also a certified risk and internal control professionals, and he has also done governance, risk, and compliance professional through this OCEG. And of course, he has worked with a good company, including Lanco, A2Z group of companies in Gurgaon. And now currently, he's a risk governance and compliance expert for the Bhopal and Indore metro rail projects. So now currently he is based in Bhopal, and he's going to deliver his presentations from the Bhopal. So welcome you, Abhay, to this program. We are holding this webinars for the last almost a year now, and we have created our own YouTube channel. When once we're done with this program, we upload those the programs on the YouTube. So we also have a Geetanjali, who's our partners, recently joined our partners from Mehta from Delhi, from Janakpuri. So welcome you, Geetanjali. She also has almost 10 years of experience as a company secretary. Mr. Bala, of course, he's all our a mentor and pillar, of our these programs. Professor Bala has worked with 4 decades in the Foseco India, and he has an all-round experience. So we always invite him to share his, expertise and knowledge. And of course, Pramod Bhai, one of the youngest in our participant, he makes a point, that he's always there. Thank you, Pramod Bhai. This gives a lot of encouragement to us to hold this kind of a programs.
Yeah,
why
not? Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
We have to promote profession and also the professionals both.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, Mr. Bala, you can take over.
Good morning to all of you. I welcome you all for this particular webinar on whistleblower and vigil mechanism policy. And this concept is not a new concept to us. This concept has been there all along, even from olden days, from Chanakya's times. But today, what has happened is the last 2 decades before, we have witnessed a lot of scams, lot of insider trading, malpractices, unethical practices. All these things have been witnessed actually. Many companies have indulged. SEBI has been left and right penalizing the people who are indulged in unethical practices. Even some of the companies, they have been also penalized. I think, of course, Geetanjali will be touching upon those. Way back in 2000, I had done a course, international course called Certified Fraud Examiner. People are actually thinking, what is the significance of the course? What you are going to do? You are being a finance person and also a company secretary. Is it relevant? Is it going to help for the sake of you are doing it or not? I also said, I don't know when it will come in handy. Let me do it. That's what I did. You will not believe it. In 2 or 3 years down the line, in my own company, there were certain malpractices, which means the confidential information pertaining to the proprietary of manufacturing things have been actually passed on through the computer channels, through the mails through someone else, and it was actually passed on from somewhere to elsewhere, and again it has transferred to the competitors. And the person who was dealing with it, as and when he has done the job, he has been deleting it from time to time. Ultimately, suddenly the company realized that some of the products which we are launching or proposed to launch were actually launched by the competitor itself. We are really surprised. We gone into the detail. Initially, they could not get the flow of it. Ultimately, I got involved, and you will not believe, I launched the cybercrime complaint because we had a suspected people. Ultimately, we could tackle this. It has taken about 2.5 years time or something like that. It was a marathon task, ultimately, to find out and to take the appropriate action. In fact, there's a High Court, Bangalore High Court judgment is there on this particular matter. Those who are interested, I can share with you privately. And ultimately, we could get the culprits, and they were actually taken to the task. But what happens is when we are talking about the whistleblower mechanism, it is basically what we are supposed to do, who is supposed to do. Whistleblowing mechanism is, for the companies, it is to encourage, to facilitate the company and the director, the employees in one ethical way. There could be financial irregularities, there should be a wrongdoing, there should be unethical practices. They will not be following the procedure and the codes of the ethical standards of the company. Discrimination, all those things can happen. These all the things can be reported. But the thing is, since the directors are frequently coming and they're meeting, they will not be able to know day to day. That is why they believe largely it is the employees who are within the organization. They know what is what. They can actually approach the top management. They can report. In addition to that, the people who are dealing with these outsiders, they can also report. So this is the mechanism in which it has been actually working. But although regulation is there and provisions are there, but always, there is a fear. Suppose we report, what will happen? Can I actually directly go to the top management? What my boss will look into? What will happen to me? Whether my job will be safeguarded, whether I will be taken action against me, or I will be victimized, I will lose the job. All this fear factor is there. With the result, what happened? Many of the things go unreported. That is the reality, actually speaking. Although it's a good system, it will going to improve upon many things in the organizations. If it is reported, is taken the action. But the thing is, today it is not at the expected level of the satisfaction. Although regulators trying to do very best to bring this into the place. So this is the mechanism which is mandatory for the listed companies as per the SEBI and ODR regulations. And as per the MCA also, it is particular classes of companies subject to certain kind of capital limit, etc. It is available. In many of the companies, it is also mandatory because they also have the different standard based on the number of employees, number of turnover, number of revenue, number of the things, etc. and other things and all those things. All over the world, it is actually there. But when it put into practice, yes, it will definitely give a greater advantages. We need to know. Another thing is coming to company secretary. He has got a greater role to play in this because, as you know, the company secretary functions is to ensure all the applicable laws and the compliance and help the directors to see that compliance is actually done. This is again coming one of the compliance mechanism. Not only that, even if the policy is in place, regular reporting, regular monitoring, action taken, etc. And again, a very important thing, protection of the person who's actually reporting, that is whistleblower. What is the protection is available? There are a number of acts which is actually giving the protection. Because you also might have been knowing one of the very old case, which is I think Satyendra Dubey. He was actually reported as a whistleblowing certain irregularity matters in the contract which has been done in the NHSB involving the L&T contract, etc. and other thing and done. Even he went to the extent of reporting to the PMO's office. But ultimately, some or other things did not go well during his time, but finally he was shot dead. Then you will not believe almost more than about 50,000 people, public, they have actually lodged the petition and ultimately landed down in a Supreme Court, and finally justice has been achieved in that particular case. So these are the situations there. There are many cases are there like that. I think today Geetanjali is actually going to take us what is the importance of the whistleblowing and what is the real mechanism is there, who can actually blow the whistle, what are the provisions of the Companies Act, what are the provisions of the SEBI regulations related things. More so, the responsibility of company secretary and the management, that is especially the audit committee and the director, and also very recently MCA has costed upon a higher responsibility on the auditor's part of it to see this mechanism is actually working in play. They'll have to actually make a certification in the thorough report. I think she will be dealing with all these nitty-gritties in today's session, so that it will be definitely a good learning session for all of us. Coming to Abhay Kumar, I think he has got a practical experience in this field since he has been associated for the last 5-6 years. and he is there. He has actually agreed to share his practical experience as and when relevant. When we are running the slide, we will have the greater hearing from him on his personal experience, which also help us to know what is what, where we are. With this, I will ask Mr. Abhay Kumar to say a few words on the topic, and then we can proceed. Over to Abhay Kumar, please.
Thank you, sir. When we discuss about the whistleblower mechanism, I think it is about blowing of any kind of illegal, immoral, improper, unsafe, unsocial, anti-environmental aspects. And it is not necessarily about the financial fraud or bribes kind of things only. For example, there is a construction project, and at the project some workers are working in a unsafe condition, and few people are watching this kind of unsafe working condition but not blowing the whistle. This can result into a catastrophic damage involving not only the repo of the organization but also the huge loss to the life and the society. Similarly, there are some other instances also which I have noticed across my careers in the past few years. There are instances like somebody who is working in the even quality team, somebody working in the design team, somebody working in the other field of the construction, and it has been noticed that the people have been favoring the contractor or somebody else and giving the quality clearance, giving the design clearance, even without going through the entire quality check process or the design verification process. And that has resulted into a either the poor construction quality or even sometimes the structural collapses. So blowing whistle about such kind of things, such kind of improper and unethical practices is also one of the important aspects, and that should be taken care of while drafting and adopting a whistleblower policy. When I was working in the corporate as a company secretary, my perspective about the whistleblower policy was entirely different. And when now I'm on the other side of the, I'm entirely working for a project, my perspective for the whistleblower is entirely different. So if I see it from the risk management perspective, I see that the whistleblower mechanism looks like the two sides of a coin. On the one hand, it is a tool to mitigate the risk of immoral and illegal practices. But on the other hand, it can also become a risky kind of thing in case it is not effectively implemented. And in order to be it effective, there has some important factors that should be addressed in the policy. And those factors are: number one, awareness. I have seen many companies making the policy and just posting it on the website or submitting it to SEBI or other regulatory bodies and not actually creating the awareness. I strongly believe that it is a corporate governance tool, and uh, governance is something that is a top to bottom approach. And if that approach is not passed on to the people working in the last leg of the organization, the policy is going to definitely fail. I have seen in the organization that the people who are working in the last leg of the organization are actually not aware of these kind of policies. They are actually not aware what is whistle blowing how to report the unethical practices, and if I report, what sort of protections are available to me. So creating awareness is one of the important aspects for giving effectiveness to the whistleblower mechanism. Once it is implemented, there has to be the policy has to be efficient and transparent. When the disclosure has been made, the employer must address it immediately in line with the policy. If there is not enough information, that the whistleblower should be further asked to submit the further details. And if some action is taken, it is also the duty of the whistleblower agency or whistleblower manager to pass on the action taken to the whistleblower, so that a line of trust is created between the whistleblower and the organization. The third important aspect is the encouragement or reward. Generally, it is seen that there are a number of obstacles that the people are afraid of reporting such kind of unethical practices, like negative management attitude, fear of retaliation, lack of incentives, yeah, nothing being done about the previous report. So encouraging the people, creating the awareness, these are the essential aspects of a successful whistleblower mechanism. Going forward, the protection of the whistleblower is the very important aspect, because unless until the whistleblower feels protected, he is not going to disclose anything. One more important aspect I would like to uh, refer here, that the protection for the whistleblower is no doubt essentially required, but there have been multiple instances where the people who is blowing the whistle, and there are some witness also who come up to collaborate the disclosure made by the whistleblower during the stage of inquiry, and therefore it is also essential that the protection of witness is also required. Anonymous disclosure is also one of the important aspects for a successful whistleblower mechanism. So these are the few important aspects and practical aspects which I wanted to mention. And I would like to over it to you, Geetanjali, and we will further be discussing during the presentation.
Thank you, sir. A very good morning to everyone. I am glad to be here today. A little bit nervous as well, but yes, mostly glad. Uh, Also, I would like to thank our esteemed panelists and the wonderful participants here for making time. I know you must be having other important things to attend to, yet you choose to be here today. So it will be my motive to make it worth for you. So without further ado, uh, let's kickstart our discussion on today's topic: whistleblower and vigil mechanism, policies and provisions. Before we dive into the legal provisions, let's try to let's try to understand the term from a layman's perspective. What is whistleblowing? So when we talk about whistleblowing, in the simplest of the words, whistleblowing means reporting the wrong gags, the malpractices, any illegal practices going on in an organization, anything which is detrimental in any manner. Uh, so when somebody reports that kind of action, it is called whistleblowing, and the person reporting such action is called a whistleblower. Now, when we talk about the malpractices, the illegal actions, it is very important that such malpractices must be affecting public at large. And disclosing the same uh, must benefit a larger area of public. Having said that, it is very important to whistleblow the misuse of misuse of funds in an organization. But yes, occasional sneaking out of office stationery can be, ignored for some time on a lighter note.
When you are
Okay.
seeing the stationery, I'll tell you one thing. In our organization, those days, we had a Xerox machine. Okay. Many people, they wanted to have a Xerox, certified copy, that documents and other things and all those things. The question was actually discussed. I am talking not today. I am talking way back in 1994, 95. And we have said, okay, Xerox machine is available. Anybody can take a Xerox. But so long as you are taking a Xerox for your personal things, we kept a small box there. You put appropriately 1 rupee per copy or something like that. Okay, you put it in the box. You can take whatever you want. This is what actually made, this was actually announced, it was actually in the policy. You will not believe, every month we used to get a good collections in that box, which we used to actually donate to the neighboring people. There are ways and means of tackling it if the organization wanted to do it. That is the thing. In fact, when Abhay was talking about the safety, etc., and all the thing, in our organization, we actually had that time because it's a chemical hazardous factory. What we said is every month in a particular day, which is fixed for about 3 hours, people, anybody in the organization, they are required to walk around the entire factory places, and whatever they notice which is unsafe, which is not okay, which is required improvement, etc., and all this thing, they need to just to put it and they need to report. Either it will be in the mail or it will be in the written note or whatever it is, etc., and all this thing. And again, we'll go through, there's a committee there which will actually go through wherever action is being taken. There are a lot of good suggestions has come, a lot of safety measurement has also been taken in such a cases. If the company really willingly wanted to do things, it has to come voluntarily. It can be done. This is the personal experience I had actually when you talk about it. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience, sir. And I must say that's really innovative of an organization to think that way. Moving on. So this man here on the screen, I'm Mr. Travis Tigert, CEO of United Nations Anti-Doping Agency. I would like to quote him here, as he said, in order to expose a system, you need a whistleblower. That's how important a whistleblower is. But unfortunately, whistleblowing comes with its own costs. Even after observing irregularities in an organization, malpractices in an organization, sometimes people choose, in fact, most of the time people choose to stay silent. I would like to share few of many reasons here. Mr. Abhay has already discussed a lot of practical reasons why people choose to stay quiet. I would like to add a few things to it. So there's always a risk of losing job, which is anyways there, even if you're not blowing a whistle. So, why to add to that by becoming a whistleblower? There are trust issues, major trust issues. When there are some malpractices going on in an organization, you can never be sure who can be involved. It might be the person, who is with whom you go for your tea breaks every day. So there are major trust issues. Then there is fear of hostility. You might face some retaliation. There's a major lack of protection against threats. Being a whistleblower may result in entirely a career suicide. You might not get a job anywhere. And the worst of all, risk of losing lives of the whistleblower and sometimes their families as well. So that is really sad. Now, we all know that whistleblowing is very important. How whistleblowing, if properly organized, if properly monitored, whistleblowing can bring a lot of change in the corporate world, in fact, in the whole country as a whole. So we can definitely think about good corporate governance here. Number of frauds can reduce significantly. It can totally end unethical practices and yes, saving the lives of people and communities. So as Abhay sir gave the example of the construction site. There's one more example I would like to quote. This is a very popular case law about Johnson and Johnson. I hope all of know about Johnson and Johnson. It's a very famous brand in every household. I guess all of us have grown up using their powders and oils and everything. So I doubt there's anybody who doesn't know about Johnson and Johnson. So Johnson and Johnson was developing this medicine for mental disorders called Risperdal. Now the FDA declared the medicine unfit for use amongst children and elderly patients with dementia. However, Johnson and Johnson chose to completely ignore the warning by FDA, and they continued to market the prescription to society as a whole, including the prohibited population, without any warning. It was only after a few employees blew whistle on Johnson & Johnson, they pled guilty and ended up paying a fine of about $2.2 billion. As Bala sir told us about the case of Mr. Satyendra Dubey, I would like to discuss the case in detail. It's a very important case in the whole history of whistleblowing. So Mr. Satyendra Dubey was appointed as project director in Kodema city in Jharkhand, where he was to oversee the work on a 60-kilometer long Aurangabad-Barakati segment of National Highway 2. Now, while on the role, he discovered serious financial and procedural irregularities in the construction. He initially ordered the contractor of the project to suspend 3 of the engineers. He even directed the contractor to rebuild 6 kilometers of poor quality road, which was a slap across the face of road contract mafia. Now, despite referring the matter to his superiors in NHAI, he was shunted out of Kodema and transferred to Gaya. However, his fight against corruption didn't stop there. Even when he was in Gaya, he exposed serious financial irregularities in the process of subcontracting and the construction of poor quality roads. Deeply troubled by what he saw, he wrote a long letter to then Prime Minister Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, exposing systematic corruption in NHAI. He also requested to keep his name anonymous. Now, unfortunately, his file just got buried in the pile of many other such files. On November 27, 2003, Dubey was murdered, was shot dead while returning home from a wedding in Varanasi. The CBI concluded their investigation into the murder as a case of robbery. However, his case made a huge impact. The case triggered protests in India, with the media going to town against the government for failing to protect him and properly investigate his allegations. Besides inspiring others to show the same degree of courage, it even strengthened the call for greater probity in public life with enactment of RTI Act and the Whistleblower Protection Act in May 2014. We will discuss about the Whistleblower Protection Act later in this presentation. So this shows how important the whistleblowing mechanism is. Countries throughout the world have recognized the importance of whistleblowers. Countries have realized that it is the most important, it should be their most important agenda to ensure the protection of whistleblowers, first of all, and if possible to give them some incentives to encourage the whistleblowers to come forward. So we'll discuss about the whistleblowers laws around the world. In 2019, European Union passed whistleblowing directive for companies with more than 250 employees, which was to be implemented by December 2021. The diagram in the slide shows the status of the implementation as of June 2022. Let's talk about the United States of America. US legal framework stands out as particularly notable because of its bounty programs. US has numerous federal laws protecting whistleblowers, including the very popular Sarbanes-Oxley Act, the Dodd-Frank Act, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and the False Claims Act. The The bounty programs, regarding the bounty programs, whistleblowers under these laws stand to gain monetary payments if their employer is successfully prosecuted as a result of their disclosure. France, the SAPIN Law 2 requires legal entities with at least 50 employees to implement appropriate arrangements for receiving concerns and alerts raised by whistleblowers. In Netherlands, the Dutch Whistleblowers Authority Act offers protection to employees from private as well as public sector. Based on this act, employers with 50 or more of the employees are obliged to have internal whistleblowing policy. In addition, the act provides for establishment of a national independent body called the House of Whistleblowers, which should provide a safe haven for potential whistleblowers. Japan has its own whistleblowers law, the Japan Whistleblowers Protection Act. South Korea has a number of laws and regulations for treatment and protection of whistleblowers. The most relevant one being Public Interest Whistleblower Protection Act. The Whistleblower Protection Act protects whistleblowers who report certain wrongdoings in the private sector. Moving on to India, we have numerous laws protecting whistleblowers, starting with Whistleblowers Protection Act 2014. Whistleblower Protection Act provides a mechanism to receive complaints related to disclosure of allegations of corruption or willful misuse of power against any public servant, and to inquire or cause any inquiry into such disclosure. The Act provides safeguards against victimization of person making such complaints. Unfortunately, Act does not allow anonymous complaints to be made, which in my personal view sort of fails the very objective of the Act, as Mr. Abhay already told that anonymous, and we saw from the case of Mr. Satyendra Dubey, encouraging anonymous complaints might to be significant in the whistleblowing matters. The maximum time period for making a complaint under this act is 7 years. Talking about Companies Act 2013, Section 177, subsection 9 of Companies Act provides that every listed company and the prescribed companies shall establish a proper vigil mechanism for directors and employees to report their genuine concern in the prescribed manner. Now, as per Rule 7, the prescribed companies include
Geetanjali.
companies. Yes.
Geetanjali, regarding the safeguards against victimization,
Yeah.
I came across one of the situation a few years back when one of the employee working in a company raised voice against the corruption in which his boss was involved. But what he did, he raised this concern in front of the entire office.
Yeah.
So it was not a case of protected disclosure,
Right.
and the person blowing the whistle was not required to be given any kind of protection because it was raised in front of each and every person of the organization from top to bottom. There was a party going on behalf of the company, and this whistle was blown by him in the party itself. So later on, the inquiry was done and the boss was dismissed, and the whistleblower was not required to win any kind of protection because there was a belief and perception as well that the person against whom the voice has been raised is going to do nothing because it has been disclosed in front of every people, and that worked. So this was a live example which I wanted to share here.
Sir, I think that is very brave of that person, and I personally think that he got lucky too. What he was trying to do worked, but it might not work with everyone. Sometimes people you are dealing with might be really morally dead. So Yes, but this can be one of the way you can blow the whistle. It's a very brave step to take.
Yes, yes. Over to you.
Again,
So,
Going on. Yeah.
yeah.
again, what is the privileges in the organization? They encouraging the people to talk openly in the forum, or they know to follow certain protocol, etc. You cannot talk it directly bypassing your pause. You have to come from the proper channel, which is more so in the government organization, etc. And all this, a lot of hierarchy and bureaucracy and other things and all those things. So again, much will depends upon the organization culture. If the organization is the open culture, anybody can raise anything, meeting the people, then it is actually a better thing which can actually happen. If organization, sort of closely held, it has to only follow this protocol and other things and all the things. Naturally, due to that, people will actually hesitant. They will not come forward. As you rightly say, yes, in this particular case, he was lucky enough that he had an open culture in the organization. He was able to do it. I do not know whether many people will be able to do it or something like that. And in fact, you also talked about certain, victimization, privilege, etc. and all those things. I remember in our organization, one of the employees, he was actually discharged because of some unethical practices. Normally, you might also need, many people will be doing, Atul Mehta will also can vouch actually for that. Many organizations, we suddenly come across the top management, such and such person has actually resigned the company as personal reason, he is relieved with immediate effect. It is not that he has resigned for some reason, he is relieved immediately, he has been asked to go. But instead of terminating him, they have told him, you please submit your paper, we will accept it. That is what normally it happened in many organizations. In our organization, the same thing has happened. A person who was very senior employee, spent almost about 22 years or something like that. He was found involved in unethical practices. He was actually asked to go. He submitted the paper. He was relieved. But later on, suddenly, out of the anger and other thing and all, he chose to write an anonymous letter to the department like income tax department and etc. and other thing and all, alleging these companies involved the malpractices, this, that, etc. and other things. The letter landed up in the income tax department. Then there was an inquiry formally. I happened to be a controller of accounts. I met the chief commissioner of the income tax where this letter, but he was not disclosing what is what. And he was telling in your answer, I understand this is happening, that is happening. And I told you, come. We have an open culture. We are having a system. We have a lay down things. In fact, I was in Bombay at that time. Income tax office is actually at New Marine Lines. Our office is just across, just a 5 minutes walk from the income tax department. We were in New Marine Lines. I told you, our office is across. You come anytime, meet our people, go through our system, go through the thing, and find out what is what. I challenged. After 2-3 meetings, etc., then he was slowly came out with all those things. Then I told him, okay, who's write this question? Any outsider, any concern, anybody, or internal, whatever it is. Then slowly he showed me a letter. That letter was an anonymous letter. Unfortunately, the person who wrote the letter has chose to write those days, because I am talking about 94 and all those things where we did not have this email, computer, very popular. So he wrote it by his own handwriting, which has come without signature and without anything. Since I have been with the organization for last 20 years or so, during which time I know him very well, I could recognize this is his own handwriting. Then I told him, look here, this person credentials, etc. I will tell you what is what. This is what it is. This person was an unethical practice person who was actually discharged, and he is angry. He has written something which is actually not at all true. It's all false. Luckily, I had his number in front of his office. I call his number. I told him, I choose to write some letter to income tax. हाँ, बहुत गुस्से में था. हमने लिख दिया बाबू लोगों के ऊपर. He made an open statement. Then ultimately, the officer has realized he told the paper in front of me and other thing and all, realizing the things. Many things can happen that way, because people can take an undue advantage of raising the things and bring the thing, doing the harm deliberately. That also can happen actually. But as rightly said, this is one of the reasons why these anonymous things are not encouraged. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Abhay, I have a question. Abhay, you are there?
Yeah, he is there.
Hello.
Please,
Yes,
Abhay,
yes.
yeah, Abhay, see, I understand, of course, you should have regulations and controls, and this whistleblower has to be used for the benefit of the organizations and all. But see, nowadays you have a lot of cases with a bad intentions, to harm the company also. Now, how do you bifurcate this? Now, some employees, they blow a whistle. Now, again, there are ways and means of doing this blowing. Now, you go to some big parties and say, look, my company is doing 1, 2, 3, 4 wrong, or my GM or my head of department is, doing 1, 2, 3, 4 wrong, something like this. And now probably there are ways and means. So, I mean, is it that, the company should lay down the process? Look, you are supposed to be, in case you wanted to blow a whistle, you have to go to, some XYZ and blow your whistle there. I don't know. I mean, have you come across with any of those? Yeah, bhai.
Definitely, sir. It is one of the concern as well. And many times it has been seen that the people blow the whistle just to, take some revenge against his
Yeah.
co-workers. But it can be, there can be a system in place where this type of complaints can be screened out, and
Okay.
a team of few members can be there to screen out whether there is a genuinity in this complaint or not, and then it can be forwarded to the whistleblower manager. But practically I have not uh, uh, come across any such kind of situation until now.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, Mr. Bala, you wanted to say something because you understand what I'm saying, like the intentions and see, there are some business secret also which company wants to make, the employee cannot go openly and tell, look, as per him, this is wrong. I mean,
No. See, in the whistleblowing policy, there is a separate protection is there even for the confidential information related things. If we actually go through the things, there is a do's and don'ts. What can be reported, what cannot be reported, there is a classified things are there. If it is something related to the confidential information, etc., other thing and all, and that will not come with that will come under the confidential information. He is not bound to do it otherwise also. If that is the case, there is actually a confidential information, etc., and all this thing, he can be taken to the task. That is what I was telling. In one of our cases, the confidential information has been actually passed on. He erased everything from his computer, etc., and other things. We have to take the help of the cyber crime, etc. We have gone to the High Court. We fought out the case. Of course, the other side lawyer also very sure he was actually having whether it is you have a patent right, you have the copyright, this, that, etc., and other thing and all. Even under the common law, anybody who's actually learning the confidential information which is pertaining to the organization, he are bound to maintain the confidentiality till that is actually becoming public. That is there. And definitely the proprietary information, etc., and also he cannot reveal. That is there actually always. Yes, you are right actually. The people who wanted to do it anyway, they can do it. There have been cases. It is not there are not been cases or something like that. That is there.
Yeah, Geetanjali, continue.
Thank you, sir. So, starting with Companies Act 2013, Section 177, subsection 9 provides for every listed company and prescribed companies to establish a vigil mechanism for directors and employees, other stakeholders to report genuine concerns in the prescribed manner. Now, as per Rule 7, prescribed companies include companies accepting public deposits and companies which have borrowings in excess of 50 crores from banks and public financial institutions combined. As per Section 177, subsection 10, the vigil mechanism shall provide for adequate safeguards against victimizations of the whistleblowers, and there should also be the provision for direct access to the chairperson of audit committee in exceptional cases. It is very important to disclose the vigil mechanism of the organization, and it must be disclosed on the website of the company if there's any website. Otherwise, it should be disclosed in the board report of the company. Now, when we have a vigil mechanism, a monitoring mechanism is also very important. Otherwise, the mechanism is kind of useless without that. So for monitoring, all those companies who are required to constitute audit committee shall oversee the vigil mechanism through audit committee. We will discuss the role of audit committee. Audit committee shall oversee the vigil mechanism through a director nominated for the purpose of monitoring the vigil mechanism. Moving on to SEBI regulations, all listed companies are required to establish a whistleblower policy vigil mechanism by whatever name called to provide a gateway for employees to report their concerns about the malpractices, unethical behavior, fraud, actual or suspected, or violation of company's basic code of conduct, general ethics. Now, listed companies shall also disclose the details of their whistleblower policy on the company website. Such disclosure will also be made in the annual report of the company in the form of a separate section detailing company's philosophy on code of conduct, details of the board, and the meetings conducted during the year, including all the details of the meeting, the number of attendees, number of meetings happened during the year. While we are at SEBI, I would like to discuss a case here, Sun Pharma. I hope everybody is aware of Sun Pharma. So SEBI was conducting a probe following two whistleblower complaints against the pharma major and its wholly owned subsidiary, Sun Pharma Labs, pertaining to alleged diversion of funds through Aditya Medicines Limited. It was alleged that such transactions had been happening for many years, and Mr. Dilip Sanghvi, founder of Sun Pharma, was getting some extra financial benefits from the company's operations through the related party transactions. Now, SEBI started an investigation and many irregularities were noted, including non-compliance of listing regulations. SEBI's internal committee held the board of directors responsible for the acts of omission and commission by the company. Key executives of the company paid settlement charges, including the CFO, Uday Baldota, the whole-time directors, Kalyan Sundaram Subramaniam and Shailesh T. Desai, Sudhir V. Walia. However, they did not admit or deny the guilt. Sharing the specific provisions of SEBI LODR regulations for reference of the participants. Regulation 42D4 provides that the listed company shall derive an effective whistleblower mechanism enabling stakeholders, including employees and their representatives, to freely communicate their concerns. 46(2)E provides that the listed company shall disclose the details of the vigil mechanism policy / whistleblower policy information on the website of the company. Regulation 18(3), if we read it with Part C of the role of audit committee and review of information by audit committee, provides that audit committee shall review the functioning of vigil mechanism, whistleblower policy of the company. Schedule 5 corporate governance report provides that annual report should contain a separate section on corporate governance disclosure. The report should make a specific disclosure with regard to details of establishment of vigil mechanism / whistleblower policy and affirmation that no personnel can be denied access. No personnel has been denied access to the audit committee. That's how important audit committee is. SEBI has also made it mandatory for all public companies to have an institutional vigil mechanism, including a whistleblower policy and a code of conduct internalized in the organization. I would like to go back to what Mr. Abhay said here during his introduction, as he told us that the bottom line of the organization isn't even aware of their rights under the vigil mechanism policy. So here, SEBI has tried to make an attempt. We hope that it goes more practical in nature. Regulation 42D4 of SEBI LODR provides that listed companies shall derive an effective whistleblower mechanism, enabling stakeholder, individual employees, their representatives to communicate their concerns. So as we discussed the case of Sun Pharma. Now the government,
Geetanjali,
yes,
if I remember very well, if my memory goes all right, in Sun Pharma's case, what has happened was ultimately SEBI LODR regulation, they found, I think, around 7 of the executives or something, if I'm not mistaken.
okay,
And they were all heavily penalized, ranging from something about 20 lakh rupees to 65 lakh rupees.
yes,
Each
sir.
of the executives, they were actually penalized heavily at that particular time. In addition
Yes,
to the company itself has to pay some penalty.
yes,
I
yes,
don't remember
that's,
exactly the penalty amount, but it was that time it was very severe actually.
yeah, I
It was,
have it with me. So
yeah,
CFO Mr. Uday Baldota had to pay 24.65 lakhs.
yeah,
The whole-time directors, Mr. Kalyan Sundaram, had to pay 36.9 lakhs. Mr.
yeah.
Shailesh
Mm.
had paid 37.41 lakhs. Mr. Sudhir V. Walia also was penalized with 37.41 lakhs of the penalty amount.
Yeah, that is right.
Yeah.
Because it
Thank
was
you.
quite some time in the news that time. Yeah.
Right, it was. Yeah, thank you, sir. So, Government of India has also enacted Public Interest Disclosure and Protection Informers Resolution (PIDPI). It is a platform for general public to send their written complaints or disclosures on any allegation of corruption, misuse of office, and under any central act, government companies, societies, local authorities, which are owned or controlled by the central government. Such complaint must be addressed to the Central Vigil Commission (CVC) and the Central Vigilance Officer (CVO) of ministries or departments of Government of India as the designated authority to receive, and they are also empowered to recommend appropriate actions. Discussing the disclosure requirements, companies are required to disclose in their board report the vigil mechanism, the whistleblower policy. The policy is also required to be made available at the website of the company, again, if the company has a website. All listed companies, they are required to include a separate chapter titled Corporate Governance in the annual report of the company. This can be referred from the Regulation 34.3 read with Schedule 5 of SEBI LODR regulations, along with reports on management discussion and analysis and general shareholder information. There will also be a certificate from practicing company secretary. Vigil mechanism will also form a part of this report. Also, this report shall include an affirmation that whenever required, whenever approached, no whistleblower has been denied an access to the audit committee, chairperson of board, managing director, or company secretary of the company. Now discussing role of audit committee in detail.
In fact, as per the SEBI LODR regulations, the company has to actually make the whistleblower policy not only available, it must also make clearly to the people, employees, the contact details of the audit committee chairman and the company secretary, and also the board chairman and the managing director, etc., along with their mail ID and also the telephone numbers.
Right.
That is actually required, and they are free to approach directly.
Right.
And the company where I was working, what we have done is we have actually created what we call a toll-free number.
Okay.
Anybody can call in the toll-free number. They can register the complaint. That will be acknowledged, received, and he has to give the full details. But the only thing is, till the inquiry is actually made by we had a committee formed for these purposes to go into the detail. Whatever the things are received, go into the detail and find out the thing. Till the inquiry committee actually finds out the things, etc., this person's name, etc., will be maintained confidential. That was there. I think through this, company has come to know certain irregularities which has been actually happening while subcontracting the job in some places. They could actually arrest. That was there. And not only that, the person who was actually blown the whistle, he has been actually recognized and he has been given a certificate of appreciation and addition to some cash incentives, etc. also. That was also working with us. So again, as you rightly say, as Dubai also sets it initially very clearly, it is not only having the policy, it is making aware of the policy and again making the people to have the access and use the policy and come forward and report. Not only the reporting, thereafter what happens? As you rightly said, Sachindra Subha's case, what happens is although a number of letters, etc., which has been written, nothing happened during his lifetime. It is only after the life is lost. It is because of the public's, awareness, etc., and all the thing which has come. Ultimately, the case landed in the Supreme Court. So during the lifetime, nothing has actually happened. So here it is not only reporting, it is also the action being taken, investigating, finding out, genuines go into the down of it. That is required. Again, it depends upon the companies, how seriously they are looking into, how they are monitoring, how they are setting up the mechanism. That is all will matter actually here. In fact, there are a lot of good companies, they have been actually doing it. As if some of the people, they may be knowing also in our delegates. Many of the published balance sheet in the corporate governance report, they actually report very detailed paragraph on the Vigil mechanism, over, etc., and other things, and all those things. It is very categorically, it is there. It is interesting to go through it. Actually. Yeah. Abhay,
Sir,
would you like to add
please.
something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I see many companies which meet this criteria of section 177 of having public deposits and borrowing in excess of 50 crores. Even there are so many bigger companies and they are doing a lot of projects across the country, even worldwide. And definitely at the corporate level, they might have adopted this policy. But at none of the construction site, at none of the projects, this policy is displayed. I also see that a number of malpractices, number of unethical practices emanate from bottom to top. And the people sitting at the project site, they are actually not aware what is this policy all about. So reporting the genuine concerns is not possible for them. They are actually not aware. So setting the criteria by law is one thing. Adopting the policy is the next step, definitely. But creating awareness and educating the people is also equally important. There are some people working in the organization who come from a very backward area. They are not culturally they are not so very sound to go to the next level to report these kind of things, but they are suffering. So education and creating awareness is very essential to the successful of whistleblower policy. Over to you, Geetanjali.
Yeah, that's true, sir. And I would like to add my views to whatever Bala sir and Mr. Abhay said. So regarding the companies, taking initiatives toward whistleblower policies, I completely agree that more or less it gets to, how morally awake the company's top management or the company's promoters are. So if they are morally awake and they feel responsible towards the welfare of the organization and the employees, I think whistleblower policy is definitely going to be successful. About the case that Bala sir shared, about the person being, about the whistleblower being recognized, this case gives us some hope. I hope the sunshine falls on more of the cases, and we get to listen, hear more of such news. Regarding Satyendra Dubey, I feel sad to say that, it takes a gunshot to open people's ears, I guess. And to what Mr. Abhay said, yes, awareness is very important. But when we are talking about the, most bottom line of the employees, sometimes even the awareness is not enough, because they don't have the proper channels to reach to the right people, to the concerned person who can actually listen to their concerns, who can help that. So I think what we really need to work on is the most bottom line, the construction sites, the factories, because I think they are really the affected areas in terms of malpractices. So again, this coming back to the role of audit committee, section 177 subsection 10, it provides for audit committee to monitor the vigil mechanism in the company. Also, in case of repeated complaints, audit committee has the power to take suitable actions. Now, section 177 also provides for provisions for direct access to the chairperson of audit committee in exceptional cases. Regulation 18(3) of SEBI LODR provides for audit committee to review the functioning of vigil mechanism of the company. Role of CS. CS definitely plays a critical role in ensuring the good corporate governance in an organization. CS is one of the principal officers in a company, and also is in charge of compliance of the corporate laws. Companies Act 2013 has recognized CS as one of the key managerial personnel of the company, which in itself is a big responsibility. As per Regulation 18(1)(e) of SEBI LODR, CS shall also act as secretary to the audit committee.
Geetanjali,
Further, yes.
Geetanjali, I think there is someone is asking how to enlighten the last leg of employees on the features of the policy. Should the policy cover carrot and the stick approach, meaning thereby in case of any genuine complaints, etc., the whistleblower to be rewarded and to be demoted for vice versa situation?
Though I would like your very expert views on this, but yes, what I feel about this is, enlightening the last leg in an organization. It's very important that the people from top management of the company should regularly go and meet those people to give them that confidence that they are accessible. The last leg of the organization should not feel that they cannot reach the so-called big people in the organization. I think that should really help in my amateur view, but yes, your expert view will really help.
I will share one of my experience actually. I spent in a listed company almost about 30 long years actually. I was lucky enough to spend 30 long years in that company, but I had a greater experience of working in the different locations like, Jamshedpur, Calcutta, Jammu Kashmir, Delhi, Bombay, Pune, Pondicherry, Chennai, etc. and other things and all, and also across various departments. I was actually in finance and works and sales and even HR and internal audit and as a controller of accounts, later company secretary, legal services, etc. Later on, what happened almost when the management has actually changed, the expatriate people had come, etc. and other thing and all. One of the expatriate managing director, he made it a point. Monthly, we will have an open forum meeting for about half a day, starting from morning, ending up with the lunch. Everybody will be participating in that meeting. No work will be there. Work is suspended that particular half a day. And anybody can raise any question to any of the executives in that meeting. That was actually there. Initially, people were very shy. People were not talking and other things. And all in the meantime, company has been doing lot of internal restructure. One of the time what has happened was they actually propagated something. Let us eliminate non-essential services to bring the efficiency. This was actually the intention. Let us eliminate non-essential services. But what has gone in the down the line, I am talking about the lower level of the management. People said, oh, this HR is actually trying to eliminate the department who are the service department, namely finance people, maintenance people, like that. They are trying to eliminate these people. They are going to give outsource. They are targeting, and probably will be losing the job. Will be given, retirement, that etc. They are actually trying to eliminate the non-service department, basically manufacturing, marketing, quality control, etc. This is the message which has actually gone down. Many people were actually shaky about it. Ultimately, one of the forum when it has came, many people know that I am very close to the top management. I am working with the board of directors. My managing director is very friendly with me. Chairman is very friendly with me. People have told me this. I told him, why don't you rise in the open forum? When we were in the open forum, nobody was rising. Everybody was hesitant. I told them, you want to say something, you want to say something, you said something like that. Nobody was saying it, etc. They were all hesitant. Then my managing director asked, what is that you are provoking these people to say something? Why don't you say? Why you are asking them to say? I said, they have the genuine concern. They are hesitant to say. Nobody wants to say. Then he asked me, what is that? Then I said, I will say that. But only thing I am trying to say whether the people have got the courage to say here. Nothing has happened. Ultimately, I told them. Down the line, there is a fear that you are going to eliminate as a non-service department from this company. People are going to lose a job. That is a fear which is there. He said, who's saying that? Who's the responsible for this? Nobody was pointing out. Ultimately, you know what happened? I told them, should I tell you who are responsible for that? I just raised my finger. Which a HR manager is the one person. Second is you yourself. People had a great shock. He said, what are you talking about? I told him, this is what the propaganda, what you have made when there's a presentation has been made by the HR person taking your name. They got the instruction that you instructed the HR person to do this. This is what it is going to do. Ask him. Pin drop silence. Meeting was suspended. Then he called some of the senior people, some of the people had a small group discussion. That particular day, instead of half-day meeting, it went not only full day, it went till dinner, 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Ultimately, he said, I think there is some wrong interpretation, wrong message has actually gone down. I would like to clarify, I never intended to eliminate any of the service department people. I'm only talking non-essential service. Let us understand that. Because we are doing repetitive job, we are doing the job, same job is done by somebody else, like that. That is what I am trying to say. I am trying to actually say where we can combine the job, where we can actually eliminate which is unwanted. That is what I am trying to say. It took a lot of time that particular day to spend. So that was a good opportunity. After that, many people started, oh, if you can actually point out the managing director and HR, why not I can point out to department manager? That sort of the things awareness has got up later. Otherwise, initially it is very difficult. Again, it will depend upon the culture. When you say whether we can approach the people where they are successful and all. In this particular case, what happened? It was an open culture. Anybody can raise anything to anybody question. In fact, he made a statement. I remember still today. He said, raise any stupid question you wanted to say, and we can have any stupid answers also to that. This was the saying he said actually on that meeting. Later on, things have changed a lot actually. So again, much will depend upon the company's policy, how you make it actually. That is there. There is somebody is actually sharing an experience, sharing one experience. One employee was actually sacked for raising the false education against the management, just to raise the complaint as a shareholder of the company. he bought new shares of the company on the lodged complaint with the department, SEBI, etc., to put the entire management in bad light. But whistleblower rewarded, yes, if the good things are done, etc., it can always be appreciated. We had that system actually. Certificate of appreciation used to be given, where in certain cases where unethical practices, etc., has been brought. He set a good example. He was even given the cash award, etc., and other thing and all that was actually done. It is again depend upon the company's policy, what the company wants to do, company want to encourage, etc., and other things. Atul, you may be having something because you are moving with many organizations.
So you are right, sir. I mean, this whistleblower, yes, how positively you utilize, that is what is important rather than, destructive, company. So creating some kind of a destructions for the company. So I don't know as you, some participant wanted to share his experience, we can just, if you can unmute and just share your experience.
Yeah, you are most welcome. In fact, I put a chat box also. That is why somebody has actually shared.
Yeah.
Anybody want to share the experience, they are most welcome.
Rajiv wants to share something. Yeah, Rajiv, you can unmute and share your experience.
Hello. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Rajiv, we can
Yeah,
hear you.
this is one of the company that I was working previously. So one of the employees of the company, in fact, he raised a couple of public allegations against the management. And in fact, he even went to the extent of even engaging some outside hooligans, even against the management also, and due to various reasons or other. In fact, we set up an inquiry and ultimately the person was sacked, that employee was sacked. So because only after the employee was sacked, even what he did is that somebody from the insider he advised him also to why don't you take some shares of the company, being a listed company, and as a shareholder you can, because since as an employee you have failed, but as a shareholder you can lodge your complaint or whatever with the respective authorities, respective government. So what he did is that, so although he was failed as an employee to raise the allegations, when he knew that nothing is going to come out of these allegations, even he raised this complaint before various authorities also. He tried to bring all this whatever the allegations which have been proved internally as a wrong and something, and he lodged those complaints against the company. And in fact, even at the level of this department and all other authorities also, ultimately he was proved wrong again. So even he sometimes also he agitated before at the time of AGM also, because as a company secretary, I gave him a chance to speak also before all the shareholders and at least let him know that what the allegations which is raising against the management, let the entire shareholders body should know that his allegations are not correct. In fact, and they have been proved to be false and misleading. So these things had, as a company secretary, that I brought it before the entire shareholders to at least to let the, not just the employees of the company, entire body of the shareholders of the company, that he has been proved wrong. So that's basically that I wanted to share my experience on that. Thank you.
Mr. Bala, we also have Mr. Sinoy, he's a very senior member of our profession. Mr. Sinoy, if you are listening me, if you can just unmute and share your experience, if you have anything on this whistleblower. Mr. Sinoy, you are there? Oh, okay. He's not there. Anyway, we can continue. Yeah. Geetanjali.
Yeah, so thank you, Rajiv ji, for sharing your experience, reiterating the role of company secretary in the whistleblowing mechanism. The company secretary is one of the principal officers of the company and also is in charge of compliance of the laws. Companies Act 2013, as per Companies Act 2013, CS is one of the KMPs of the company. As per SEBI LODR regulations, CS shall act as the secretary to the audit committee. Also, in most of the whistleblower vigil mechanism policies, the receiver of complaint is mostly CS. The company secretary of the company is designated as the receiver of the complaint. I have a case here when we are talking about the role of CS.
Just 1 minute, before you move, Mr. Bala and Mr. Abhay, you are there? Abhay?
Yeah, he is there.
Achha. Abhay, maybe my question is, see, we have a many listed company, and of course, we have a whistleblower policy also. So, is it the company secretary is bound to inform SEBI or a stock exchange in case he has received any kind of a whistleblower complaint or something like this? I don't know. It is not specifically mentioned in LODR, but then is he bound? Yeah, bhai.
No, sir. As per law, it is not envisaged anywhere that the instance of whistleblower should be reported by company secretary to the regulatory body. So far as I understand it.
Yeah, as far as today is concerned, the whistleblowing mechanism is in place.
Yeah.
The company has actually made a policy available, which is actually there in the company, which is actually working. That disclosure is actually required to be given in the corporate governance report of all the
Yeah.
listed companies. That requirement is there. And another thing is that they are also supposed to say that any complaints, etc., which has been resolved or pending, etc., and other thing, that detail they are actually supposed to give. And also they have to make a specific statement. The policy is not only available in the company, and no one is actually denied to approaching the people. That is actually required to be given actually. So that is the requirement today. Otherwise, there is no reporting requirement, as we say, like, we have to give a reporting requirement. The investors' complaints in the, what you call, unaudited financial reports. We have to say what is the beginning of the complaint in the year, what is received, what is resolved, what is the end of the complaint available at the end of the period. That sort of the reporting is not there in case of the whistleblowing mechanism.
And Abhay, see, nowadays, after this 2013 Act, many auditors, have started resigning, because probably they have not agreed to something. Of course, not mentioning those kind of a reason. But then, can you take this as a whistleblowing? Because probably say, look, they are also saying, look, I'm not signing this balance sheet because there is something wrong. No. Can you take this into this side of the provisions? I don't know. Yeah, bhai, you're there?
Yeah, I think Bala sir can enlighten on this.
Yeah, Mr. Bala, your views.
No, see, auditors resigning and other things are done. In fact, the MCA has actually brought up. They have thrown the higher responsibility on the MCA. Geetanjali, I think you have shown that the MCA notification, no, somewhere in the slide.
Yes,
Can you
yes,
go back?
sir. It's there, I'm sure.
Okay. Anyway, I think we can take it up once we come. Yeah, you continue, Geetanjali, from that slide.
Yeah. So here, what happens is the auditor is not only supposed to go, he is also supposed to report in the Coro report on this particular matter, which has actually come. They introduced this. So auditors is just cannot say, sorry, I'm not agreeing, and he is supposed to report. That is his responsibility is there actually. I think she has touched upon the auditor responsibility as well, I believe. Yeah? Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, Geetanjali, you continue. Yeah.
So we were discussing the role of company secretary, and while we are at this, there is a case of Malabar Cements where late Mr. Shashidharan, the company secretary of the said company, wrote to Chief Minister of Kerala about widespread corruption in the company. Unfortunately, that case didn't end well. But yes, the company secretary has an important role to play in establishment of a proper vigil mechanism.
That was yet another, breaking news which actually came in the various newspapers appreciating the courage of conviction the company secretary actually had in that case. That was also there very popular. Although much of the things did not happen in that case, that's a different matter. But that was there, yes.
True. And while we are discussing the personal experiences of, people, respected professionals from our fraternity, I also have a personal experience to share. It happened during the very initial stages of my career. The organization that I was working with, there was this major siphoning off of funds happened in the organization, and unfortunately almost all of the staff was involved. Now the parent company got aware of this fraud, And I was on my maternity leave when all of this happened. Many people from the company were sacked because of the fund diversion. Company went into major losses, and many of the people were sacked. At the end, I was the only female employee in the organization, and the organization again started to try and get back on the feet, looking for the investments. And being a CS, I was actively involved in the investment deal, in the due diligence and everything. And while I was, since I was so actively involved, um I got to know about some irregularity. It came across me. However, the person involved was somebody I respected a lot, and so I decided to stay quiet about it. I wasn't a whistleblower. uh, I many times I felt the nudge to maybe talk to the parent company, maybe bring the same to their awareness. But yes, I wasn't as courageous as the other people we have talked about here today. uh, that was my personal experience. Now
But
moving on. Yeah.
in fact, I know many of you may be aware, it's all happened, I think, somewhere around 2013 or 2014. It was a very popular case in US. There was one young lady of around 20 years or something like that, I think, some Elizabeth Holmes. She actually came up with a very, very modern idea of providing the various medical tests just taking one drop of blood. That is what she has actually innovated. And she formed a company. It was a new startup company that time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the company's name was some Taronas or something like that. She titled herself as the CEO of the company. And there are a lot of investors have been actually duped. And not only that, there are a lot of joint venture people and other thing and all. They invested millions of money because it's being a novel idea. There's a good amount of the business which has been happening, etc., and other things and all. Later on, I think one of the journalists, he wanted to have a story on this particular thing. So she wanted to actually find out the events and we get to the detail. Then ultimately, to his great surprise, he could not find any laboratory, any lab, nothing like that, etc. Another thing and all. These are all the things have happened. Then he blown the whistles actually on this. When he blown the whistle on this, the things was what she was doing is actually a sort of a false propaganda. There was no really testing done, nothing, etc. She all have variety of pre-printed medical report to suit the things, standard format, something like that, another thing and all. That is what she was doing. She collected huge amount of the money. Ultimately, the matter went to the federal court, and I think ultimately she has to pay a lot of billions of rupees, whatever she has to pay, and not only that, she has to go for the imprisonment for almost about 20 years, I believe. That was one of the cases which has happened somewhere way back in 2014 and 15. And again, when you say coming to the reporting of the unethical practices, again, coming back to my own organization where I was working, almost I know a person who was around 20 years friendly with me, very nice person, helpful person, recognized by everybody. Wherever you need a help, he'll be there, like that. He was actually found involved in unethical practices, which I came to know. And here the question is, I was in a great dilemma because he is a good friend of mine. Not only that, family friend. We used to go various functions to his house. He used to come to us. We used to meet socially and other things and all those things. Family friends also. But he was found unethical practice. I was actually thinking whether to report or not to report, what is to be done. I know if I report, what will happen. Enquiry will be instituted, and there is a fair chance whatever the money will be recovered, and you will be losing the job. All the things will happen. I know it. But I was in a situation, confused, few days, talked to closely some 2-3 people. By and large, most of the people to whom I spoke to, oh, you're bothered. You know, other people may not be knowing it. Okay, it is all right. Let them. He is good friend of yours. You lose a friend. Think of his family. Family will suffer. These sort of things. Okay. Finally, he said there is no point in talking to anybody. I will have to take a decision myself. I coolly said that I thought over it. I thought friendship is something different, professionalism something different. We should not mix both together. What is wrong, irrespective of whether friend or no friend. Wrong is to be reported. Ultimately, I decided to report the matter. I reported to the top management. The inquiry has been done, etc. Another thing and all. Of course, they could identify during that particular financial year, because the earlier years also he was involved. But since the accounts and other things have been closed for the earlier financial year, company choose to restrict only to the current financial year, and whatever the thing identifiable money he was to pay back, and again he has been actually sacked from the organization. This is what it has happened. But the question is, how many people would like to come forward, or they want to remain as silent? That is the question comes here.
True, sir. I completely agree. And the case that you have shared has actually given me another angle to the whole whistleblowing thing. So, in addition to the actual problems of lack of protection, the lack of proper system, I think there's a problem of having a myopic view. Like you said, the people you talked to were giving you the reasons, that he is your friend, he might lose a job, but you decided to look at the bigger picture there, and you decided to look into what was actually at stake. So and finally you reported it. So I think we also have to start looking at things differently. Maybe, yeah, more than half of the reason is the actual problem of having protection issues. But yes, some of the problem is also always looking at the smaller picture.
Arising out of
That
this,
that's how.
Geetanjali, I'll share you one more thing, the extended story. Arising out of this, I was actually working in a finance. When this was reported, this company had almost about 5 manufacturing units situated in Calcutta, Jamshedpur, Jammu Kashmir, Pondicherry, Pune, and Bombay. And it has got something about 32 branches across. Out of that, 24 branches were actually having a stock points, and almost about 1,100 employees were working across the country. The moment it was reported, all the things happened. We have a system, because these are all reported to the top management, what has happened, etc. The board of directors were reported on that. Then the board of directors, that time I was not a company secretary, I was a senior finance person. Later on, I became a control of accounts. I was actually summoned by the board of directors as an invitee. I've been told, you have done a good job, but now this has risen the concern to all of us, whether all the locations, everything is all right or not. That is the concern we have. We have a proposal for you. We will actually transfer you as a head of internal audit for a next 3 years period, considering the 5 manufacturing unit and 32 stock points. You will have actually a Bharat Darshan. You will visit all these places. You will go through the system working. You will go through the thing. You will find out. And we want you to give a certificate to us. Everything is all right, or there are unethical practices are going on. I was actually hesitant to take the internal auditor job, because internal auditor is not a welcome job by anybody. Wherever you go, oh, some investigation people have come. He is going to make a complaint. He is going to find the mistakes. There is a thing people normally talk when we go to Jammu. Oh, looks nikalne wala aa gaya.
That's true, sir. I mean, if you have auditor added to your designation, you are designated as
This is
somebody
what
who will.
this is what it has happened. But I have decided what the management, what the company decides me to do, I should do it. Because they have the great confidence in me, they are assigning me a job, I should do it. I told them, sir, I don't want to make a career in internal audit. Since you are giving me this, kindly assure me, after the 3 years period, you'll transfer me back where I belong to. The board of directors told, Bala, it is not 3 years. 3 years is the period we are actually saying it. If you are able to complete in 1.5 to 2 years, you will be brought back. That's it. Because we want to have the assurance from you. Every board meeting, you are going to be an invitee and you are going to give a status quo and we want the assurance from you. You will not believe, Geetanjali, across the company, wherever I have visited, in the different locations, I came across different type of unethical practices and frauds, etc., done by different people at different levels, including a very, very top person occupying a position like a marketing manager for a particular region. I came across that. Almost about 12 people were required to be sacked. That is what it has happened. After about 3-4 locations, whenever I went to the 4th location, there was actually a saying, oh, abhi kiska naukari jaane wala hai malum nahi hai. Somebody is going to lose a job. This is what the thinking has actually come. But I will tell you one thing. After that, I have to sit with the management. We have to bring out various policies, put up a checklist, change the systems, modify the working, etc. All the things has actually happened during that period. I experienced that.
True, sir. I completely agree. So moving on to contents of a good vigil mechanism policy. Good vigil mechanism policy should clearly state the objectives of the policy. The scope should be very clear. Who will be the eligible whistleblowers under the policy? The manner of reporting and the person concerned, who is usually the company secretary of the company. It should be very clear. Manner of reporting should be set out in a language that every person should be able to understand. The complete details of the person concerned should be provided so that there is no confusion regarding who to approach. Investigation procedure should be detailed in the vigil mechanism policy and the remedial actions. The clause of confidentiality should be included. What protection measures will be there for the whistleblowers? Also, the clause for access to the chairperson of audit committee. And finally, disqualifications in the event of abuse of policy. As we have already discussed, a case where a person became a whistleblower only to, abuse the company. So the good vigil mechanism policy should contain the clause to that effect as well, so that nobody is able to, make wrong use of the vigil mechanism policy.
See, one thing is here, when you talk about, what is the scope of the policy, what is the things, etc. I think probably the policy should actually specifically talk about, if you come across any corrupt practices, that could be reported. Similarly, any discrimination comes, that could be reported.
Yes.
Any harassment taking place between the colleagues, employees, etc., and other thing and all in the workplace, that can be actually reported.
Yes.
Any breach of, company policy or ethical standards, and even in the law, which is required to be complied with all those things, that could be actually reported. And more importantly, the human rights violations, dignity, respect, treating, those can be reported. Of course, bribery is another thing, so people don't talk much about it. That can be reported. And again, insider trading can also be reported under the whistleblowing. And again, nowadays, it is all everything is the digital data. the digital world today, it is the digital data. It is again the misuse of the digital data, especially the personal details of the person which is actually being shared, etc., and other things, and all those things. Those things, the company should actually spell out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., so that people know. Although you can report, the question will arise what to report. So to that extent, the whistleblowing policy should be specific, which will actually help to the people, in my opinion.
True,
Abhay,
sir.
would you like to add something more?
Yeah, regarding the scope, I fully agree with you, and there should be a clear-cut mention what should be reported and what should not be reported. This will,
Yeah, I remember Mr. Abhay. Yes, please go ahead.
yeah. So otherwise, what will happen? Mehta sir was also mentioning earlier that if the scope is not very clear, I think the policy can be destructive. And if it is clear, it is also going to help to decide the genuinity of the case. So I personally believe that the criteria for what should be reported and what should not be reported, one of the criteria should be if the malpractice involves the interest of public at large, interest of the organization as a whole, that should be the criteria to clearly mention out what should be reported and should not be reported. Going forward, I also see that every company has a grievance redressal procedure as well. So if certain unethical or malpractice relates to personal, or it is between two individuals only, so that the route of grievance redressal procedure can definitely be followed. And clearly mentioning the scope will also help the whistleblower manager to decide the scope of the case and whether to proceed in this matter or not. Yeah, so over to Geetanjali.
Yeah, thank you. So I think Bala sir and Mr. Abhay has given us some very valuable points, the things to be added to a good vigil mechanism policy. Also, I remember Mr. Abhay during his introduction mentioned something about, adding the things about environmental factors. We cannot avoid that. So yes, the scope should be very clear, and it should be very comprehensive. It should not only be restricted to maybe just the funds or maybe just the insider tradings, but the malpractices as a whole. Anything that can affect the community in any way should be included in the scope. Now
One more thing is there. When we talk about the harassment in the workplaces, which can be the scope of the whistleblowing policy. If you remember, I think some years back, there was a specific policy has actually come out from the government, the sexual harassment against women.
Posh
What?
Act.
Yeah.
Posh Act.
What is
Yeah.
this actually? This act is actually nothing but the harassment in the workplace, especially the weaker section of the people. Because we don't treat the people that significantly, but many places. That is what it has actually come out separately to give a further protection of this. In fact, under the whistleblowing policy itself, this can be raised. But the problem is people don't come forward, etc. And all things. That is why they specifically brought out this regulation further to encourage the people, etc. And all things. That is why the committee consisting of the ladies who are actually committee, etc., which has to be set up. The company has to go into the detail and reporting all those things which has been actually set up.
Thank you, sir. So MCA has issued a few notifications to further strengthen the vigil mechanism in the organizations. So a notification dated 24 March 2021 was issued to promote the transparency and accountability in companies' financial statements. There were changes in the company's audit and auditors rules. The objective of the notification was to further strengthen the corporate governance framework under the Companies Act 2013. Now, this amended order applies to every company, including a foreign company, as defined in Companies Act 2013. The CARO 2020 places increased responsibility on the auditors, in the form of a better due diligence and disclosures on eligible companies. And it has been designed to bring in the greater transparency in the financial state of affairs of the company. Responsibility of company and auditors. As per the provisions of CARO 2020, it's now the responsibility of the company to share information with the auditors, especially on the whistleblower complaints received during the year and for the consideration of auditor. Finally, the auditor can ask questions related to how company has dealt with such complaints, and what was the nature of the complaint and the quantum involved.
In fact, Atul has asked some questions on that whistleblowing policy, any reporting, etc. The SEBI LODR. I also said it is not, it is only a disclosure on the corporate governance report. I actually recollect some years back, there was an anonymous whistleblowing complaint has been made against the IT major Infosys company. They alleged actually there is a financial malpractices. Actually, they have named in the anonymous letter alleging the CEO of the company, CFO of the company, etc. and other things. In fact, the regulator has written to Infosys on this matter. They refer the thing. And in fact, Infosys actually asked the audit committee to go into the details. They have conducted the inquiry, they have found out another thing and all. Ultimately, they reported back to the regulator. There is nothing wrong, everything and other thing and all. Ultimately, regulator has actually dropped the case. That was also there sometime in the newspaper some years back. Because it is not that anonymous letter just to go like that and other thing and all. The regulator has got a reason to believe they can actually refer back also. That is what it has happened in this particular case. I think SEBI has set up the audit committee, they refer the audit committee and they gone into the detail, and then ultimately they give the feedback to the regulator. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So concluding the session, so we all know that CS needs to work with board members and ensure that there is a proper mechanism in a place for investigating and resolving whistleblower complaints as required by Companies Act and by SEBI. We have seen today and we have heard many practical experiences, and we now know that whistleblowing is not an easy task to be put into practice. A lot of people decide to remain silent by not reporting the malpractices. It is the duty of the company secretary of the company to bring more awareness and the mechanism available for directors and employees to report their concerns about the malpractices happening in an organization. The company secretary should take extra steps to explain the actual usability and to create an ecosystem where people can actually rely on the reporting system and they can feel free to raise their concerns. There should be proper protective measures available for the whistleblower to, protect them from victimization. We are hoping that the amendments in CARO 2020 would bring increased awareness in companies to address the complaints received, and the matter of whistleblower will be handled with the sensitivity it deserves. Companies are also required to ensure proper protection for whistleblowers in the form of non-retaliation possible policies and anonymity, so that Vigil mechanism can be put to the best possible use.
Unless until the fear goes away, unless until people, have more of a courage of conviction and come forward, this mechanism is not going to be that successful actually. Today, yes, it is, more of the regulations, but less of the practical working. Many places, many things are happening which actually go unreported. That is it. Yeah.
Oh, sir. So as they say, keep blowing the whistle until people wake up from deep slumber. Thank you very much. That would be it from my side. Before I conclude, I would like to thank a few people for their active role. First of all, thanks to Atul sir for signing me up for this. I am really surprised at your confidence that you put me on this. Thank you so much. It has been a great learning experience. Thank you, Bala sir, for his valuable inputs. So when you are giving your honest feedback, you'll know who my partner in crime is.
Announced the Saturday
Thank you, Abhay
election.
sir, for
Everyone is
being here.
requested.
And
No webinar.
also,
Yeah, so great, Geetanjali, it was a great presentations. Now, just one announcement. Next Saturday, we are not having any webinars because of the elections and all. My appeal to all the participants, please, now once in a 4 year, this election happens. It is your right duty to elect the best candidate. I'm not saying you vote for one or two or A, B, C, D, but please, vote, exercise your power. And definitely, as I said, it comes once in a 4 year. Yeah, Mr. Bala.
Yeah, it was really a good learning session, and Geetanjali has done her homework very best, and she brought out a nice presentation in a capsule form, touching upon the various points. It was also so nice of sharing the experience from Abhay Sharma on this. And really, really speaking, yes, we look forward. This actually works in future. Our things will change. Unethical practices actually comes down. I see a great role for the company secretaries to work in coordination with the board and bring the awareness across the company, etc. And other thing and all. There are few appreciation which has actually come. The people have actually shared. It's a very good session, valuable sessions, etc. People are saying please share their PPT. As Atul said in the beginning, that we have a YouTube channel. The moment it is over, it will be actually shared along with the PPT in the YouTube. It will be accessible to you. So that is going to be the case. I think with this, I take the opportunity of thanking all the participants and also our panelists and the presenter. And not the least, but definitely to the chair, Atul, for doing the things.
We should thank Abhay by, in a very short notice, he accepted our invitations. Thanks, Abhay. I look forward to meet you personally also.
Thank you very much, sir, for having me with you. It was totally not expected, but when you called me up and you told me that this is Atul Mehta, so I was hardly any reason to say no.
Arre baap re, okay. Yeah.
So thank you very much, and it was a very good interaction I had with you. And Bala sir also, he has a a long-lasting experience in this field. And Geetanjali also, she has made a very good presentation. So thank you very much. Thanks.
I think there is a question has come. Is it necessary to mention the mobile number of the audit committee chairmen in the policy?
Oh, baapre. Okay.
That is the question has actually come. So here again, contact details are to be given. So it is up to the person, but if it's a personal mobile which is provided to him, whether you would like to share and other thing and all, which will depend upon with the person. And again, this or otherwise, you have to decide, you have to give otherwise the contact number of the company where it is available, where he can be contacted, or it is like that. But in our case, we have actually given in our policy the mobile number of the managing director and as well as the company secretary, which we have done when we were there. And the other people's, of course, we are actually given the organization number. The moment they call it, definitely the call will be attended. It will be actually taken back. The mobile number was not shared at that particular time. Again, it will depend upon the company's policy, what they want to do. Because what happens many times, the anonymous people, they want to raise, etc., they can create a nuisance value, which we should not be burdened with the fire people. That is what my view is.
One last comment I would like to mention
Yeah.
regarding the protection of whistleblowers. Before giving the protection, a risk assessment should be done. And what should be that risk assessment? The risk assessment should be done as to the danger which the whistleblower is susceptible to. And accordingly, the necessary protection measures should be extended.
That's a very valid point.
I think with this, we can close the session because I don't see any questions are there in the chat box. And it was a great learning experience. Thank you to all.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good weekend. As Atul Benan appeal, let us all vote and see a suitable candidate has been elected to our choice so that we can look forward. Because we definitely look forward to the professional development in our field and bring more recognition, more changes, more things come forward. So let us not fail our duty. That is my appeal to everybody. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Abhay. Thanks, all participants. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good job, Geetanjali.
Thank you so much, sir. It's all you. Thank you very much.